You're watching World Championship Wreckage, brought to you by Rivet City Radio and the World Championship Wreckage YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today's episode, Hog Wild, 1996. And boy, it was a wild pay-per-view. The promo shot for Hogan versus the Giant had Ric Flair in it. The Booty Man decided to become the disciple on this very night and chose his biker gear because of the fans. But the craziest of all, Jimmy Hart managing Dean Malenko.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of World Championship Wreckage. My apologies, one, because if you hear me kind of being a little more quiet, is right as we started to record, my 7-month-old decided to wake up. And so you might hear some music in the background. You might hear some baby crying. I'll try to mute myself when we do that. But we are here. We've had a couple weeks off just from the craziness of work and travel and all that kind of stuff. But we are here. We took a little detour this week because, we've told you Raven and the Flock won a poll. We're going to do that show. We're just waiting for our special guest. Jim Cornette won a poll, and we're going to get that recorded here soon and get that out because we have a guest who really wants to be on for that. But today, I talked to Will, and she was like, what if we just cover this? It was this time of the year, or it just was, now that we're recording it, now that we're into September. But in WCW in August, you always got Road Wild, what started off as Hog Wild. So I said, let's do a watch along and talk about the card and everything from Hog Wild 96, because it was a big one. I mean, it literally is, WCW saying to hell with tradition at the very end, and we'll get there. But I want to start first off, welcome our third chair guest today from the Gout Foundation, the funniest man on Wrestle Talk. Also, one of the best beards in Wrestle Talk, best Gout Machine. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you for having me. The Velvet Voiced Adonis is now here in World Championship Wreckage. Your lives will be forever changed, and so will mine.
Well, I like your hat to start off. I'm going to tell you that off air. So nice old school WCW hat. Yeah. Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Even better. And with me, as always, from Rivet City Radio, with Bot Spots and Chair Shots, and so much more going on over there, the Will Gray. Hey, buddy.
I'm so tired. I'm tired.
Sure you are.
It's been a long week. Like, I am not the person to miss recordings. Like, I'm structured. I keep a planner. You know me.
Oh, I know you do.
I live by this.
I have a theory on this, though. You when you taught Jax all that you know, it sucked a little bit out of you and into him. So now, it's like you're missing a Horcrux or something from Harry Potter. Like
a little bit of you is inside of him.
There's been a lot of me inside of Jax.
That's getting snipped.
It's been an interesting week, and I felt weird about the fact that we had to miss a recording. It was one of those things where I said I could do it, and then everything that happened before the recording time was like, no, you're not recording tonight.
Yeah.
So
it was cool. It let me sit back and actually watch Payback. So it was cool. I was half asleep anyway, so it was okay. I still haven't watched the main event because I fell asleep. Dad life. But today, gentlemen, we are going to talk about Hog Wild, and like I said, eventually they changed the name next year to Road Wild. What were y'all's thoughts with this? This is a different idea altogether. This is taking it out of an arena, taking it into a world that is already established. The Sturgis Biker Rally being, it's been around for a while and continues to this day. What do you remember when you were younger when they were doing this? What do you think? What do you think about it now as an adult that they did an entire pay-per-view every year with fans literally just sitting on their Harleys?
I like that it was different. They had, it was instead of the usual crowd, you had the dangerous biker elements there, and they're outside. So I gave him that props for that. Nowadays, I think if like AEW were to try that, I probably would hate it.
Yeah.
So Mark.
At least you're
Looking,
honest.
remember watching this as a kid? I would just remember being like, "Oh, cool! It's a pay-per-view outside. That's awesome! Bunch of motorcycles, cool." Looking back at it now in my late 30s, I'm like, Jesus Christ! Ted Turner's lucky he didn't get fucking sued.
Yeah.
Like the Hell's Angels and the Outlaws and everybody else, the Mongrels, all of these guys
walking around. Yeah.
5,000 drunk bikers that sounded like 100,000 angry wrestling fans. Eric Bischoff's lucky somebody didn't die.
And they did it 2 more times after this.
Not one person died that we're aware of.
Yeah, that we're aware of. I mean, I did like you had that added element of, yes, you have the crowd and their responses, but the cranking of the bikes, like that added to it. All I can imagine, though, is how hot it was around that ring with all the engines going, the sun, I'm sure it was a little uncomfortable.
South Dakota in the August is a fucking desert. Like, just call it what it is. Like, it's going to be hot.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, you get the wonderful commentators at the start of WCW Hog Wild 96 in their biker gear, and I'm like, y'all look so uncomfortable. so uncomfortable. Tony Schiavone. The only one who looks comfortable at all is Dusty in like his
natural.
Denim, like in his denim shirt cut off and his jeans. I'm like, okay, I believe you ride motorcycles. Everybody
else was born in denim.
That's true. That is true. That's something that's part of that's what we got to get with Husky. Husky, we got to get him like a full-on denim suit, cut off sleeves and all. like I'm adding to your gimmick, buddy.
A whole ass Canadian tuxedo.
Yes, man. Well, let's jump into the card. I will say this. So our last watch along was Bash at the Beach 2000, and we know how I felt about that. I will say this card held up so good from 1996. Like, I was sitting there being like, I don't remember this being this actually like being a good pay-per-view, but it was. We start off strong. It's the WCW Cruiserweight title. So, I mean, normal WCW. Let's start it off hot. Let's start with the Cruiserweight match. Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Ultimo Dragon with Sonny Ono. And they really lean into trying the commentary because, of course, Mike Tenay hops in on this because, of course, he knows everything about both of them far more than everybody else because everybody else just sounds really ignorant talking about these two. But they really go in heavy on Ultimo Dragon and his history and what he's done outside of the country. And it's Rey Mysterio in my favorite Rey Mysterio gear ever, the Spider-Man gear, which is, I mean, as a kid, I'm like, it's Spider-Man come to life. Your thoughts, guys? Like, to me, I mean, even on paper, you say Ultimo Dragon, Rey Mysterio, like, money. You could book that today, and I'd still be like, let's go.
And they're both still going today. Ultimo Dragon's still wrestling. Rey Mysterio's still wrestling. They could still have that match now.
Would love it. Would love it.
Bring it. Book it. Somebody.
This is around the same time as well that Ultimo Dragon kicked in the Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
He was wearing the WCW Cruiserweight title, the WWF Light Heavyweight title, and 7 other promotions Light Heavyweight titles.
They talk about that. They talk about the J Cup in the commentary. He doesn't come out with any titles yet. We will eventually see that. But yeah, I mean, that's one reason why. I mean, Mike today is not getting enough credit, and I've mentioned this on other episodes. Heenan's there for the comedy. Shivani's there, trying to be like as legitimate as he can, but they know nothing about what's going on with any of these wrestlers from other countries. And Mike Tenay is just a breath of fresh air, and I think people should give him more credit for what he did back in WCW because, like, Man, it's hard listening to Bobby and Tony when we get into these cruiserweight matches. Like I'm just like, dude, y'all are taken away from the matches.
Yeah, they don't know the moves. They don't know, like I said, like the history of any of the wrestlers. They don't know words like Uranagi and all that. Like, Mike Tenay deserves his flowers now.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Will, what's your thought? Like, if we could get in 2023, or as we're going towards the end of the year into 2024, what if we could get a Rey Mysterio Ultimo Dragon right now?
I think if there's two people right now that would know how to safely work a match together to still make it look like a Rey Mysterio Ultimo Dragon match, it would be these two. Because there's a reason why they've been luchadors for 30 years and they've been successful 30 years and they're still able to work 30 years is because they do it safe and they do it well. And I think any kind of longevity in the business speaks to how safe you do the job.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're able to do it the length of time Rey Mysterio has done it, it shows you how safe he is. And even one step further is Ultimo Dragon because he's been wrestling longer than Rey.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned Rey's gear. I loved Rey's gear, Spider-Man. But I was always a fan of Ultimo Dragon's gear. I don't know if it was like because I was such a Green Ranger fan and it looked like the Shield and that kind of stuff. But Ultimo Dragon was in WCW NWO World Tour, and I always thought that was kind of cool. But this is quintessential WCW, starting off hot with the cruiserweight match that delivers. I mean, I can't. We've talked about cruiserweight matches. I mean, till we're blue in the face on pretty much any watch along, or in a lot of our even like career retrospectives for certain people. I can't think of one. I never can think of one that didn't deliver. Like this is what helped build WCW, and here in '96, as we're going into that change of cartoony wrestling into reality with the NWO. We're still in the genesis of the NWO here. Like this is a month later, which we covered Bash at the Beach '96, and we'll get there with the main event, the pre-main event, and the main event. But that storyline might have gotten people's interest, but this type of match is what kept people sticking around and drove people.
Get the audience going on.
Yes. Next up, two people that I forgot were a tag team, Scott Flash Norton and Ice Train, when they were fire and ice together going. But I mean, to quote Big E, big meaty men slapping meat, and also to still, what the crowd was chanting at Miro and Hobbs this past week.
Slap that meat.
Slap that meat. Scott Norton and Ice Train. Hey, Will, what's your favorite Ice Train match?
I'm going to be completely honest. I was watching it, and when I watched the watch along, I was like, I don't know who the fuck these guys are. Like, Scott Norton, yes. Like, yeah. we remember, but I was like, Ice Train. How do I not remember Ice Train? I can remember Earthquake and Typhoon, and Shark, I can remember that Hacksaw Jim Duggan won the first Royal Rumble and it wasn't even a pay-per-view. Like I can rattle off stupid, ridiculous historical stuff of wrestling. And you said Ice Train, and I said, the fuck is Ice Train?
Yeah.
Far reaches of the brain right there of our memories.
Yeah. BGM. Hey, like Ice Train. Any fond memories from your past?
Oh God! I'm like, did he even existed? I almost feel like you're pranking me.
No,
but I did run through this again. I'm like, oh yeah, he existed. Hell, I didn't. It's funny. I didn't realize that Scott Norton. I remember him back in the day, and I'm like, I didn't know he was such a big deal in Japan. I just thought he was like a random guy thrown into the NWO at one point.
When I first discovered him, I didn't even realize how big he was in Japan until years later.
He's a journeyman. He is the quintessential example of that like relief pitcher in the Major League Baseball who's played for half the league, but for some reason they keep him around. That was who Scott Norton was in 1996. The dude had worked everywhere that had been reputable at that point. The NWO was just like, fuck it. Let's put him here.
I owe him a Coke now.
I remember Fire and Ice, and I only remember Fire and Ice because not too long ago I watched another pay-per-view and they were together and their tights were like, all I could think of is, you remember Heat Miser and Snow Miser? That was Fire and Ice. And not to disrespect Scott Norton in any way, shape, or form. He's a big man. He could do me some even at like now could do me some bodily harm. But yeah, it was Heat Miser and Snow Miser with that gear for them. But this was them, going against each other, and as the end of that partnership. Because I mean, hey, every tag team eventually has to break up, right, guys? Other than the New Day,
forever.
It's. Yeah, it was what it was. I mean, it was a way to, get the up waves of WCW, get the crowd up high with the cruiserweights, drop them down low, then high, then low.
They weren't all winners.
Yeah. So, it's so funny though to just
Ice Train.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get him tattooed on me now, right next to my Macho Man tattoo.
I'm gonna find an Ice Train T-shirt and I'm gonna send it to Will.
I'm gonna get a flag, a towel, and wave it around at the next GCW show I'm at.
Ice Train, Ice Train,
Ice Train, Ice Train.
Let's get Ice Train chant.
That's gonna be my next selection for the poll, is Ice Train.
I'm calling out sick.
No, that'll be our. It's gonna be Ice Train. Here's what the fans have to pick from: Ice Train or Horace Hogan.
Oh, AJ will finally get his stuff.
Yeah. I told him we will do it. I will do an extra episode but he has to run it.
I at least remember Horace Hogan.
Yeah. So next up, because we're in Sturgis, we gotta have some type of gimmick match with a motorcycle, right? So we get Bull Nakano with Sonny Ono, of course, coming out on like a Honda motorcycle, that gets booed immediately because it's all these men and women on Harleys.
I couldn't imagine why.
Yeah, I wonder why.
What are the ladies doing here?
Versus Medusa, of course, coming out in her red, white, and blue, all American, like on a Harley and everything. What are y'all's thoughts? I'm about to say, in the time we've been here doing this show now for several months now, Will, neither of these two have come up ever.
I think if you think about who Alundra Blaze was going into Medusa, being 9 months after dropping the WWF Women's title in the trash can, we're almost 9 months to the day removed from that. You know what Eric Bischoff did when she came over? He said, I don't really have anybody for you to work with. But you're gonna be the face of my women's division. But it was kind of like Moolah running women's wrestling in 1960, where she would have one really good wrestler, and then they would just bring people in for that one person to work. Because WCW didn't have an active women's division. So that's what I think about. Is if it wasn't for people like Bull Nakano, we wouldn't have had WCW women's wrestling. Medusa was a vital point of it, but if it wasn't for the women Eric Bischoff was bringing in, like Bull, to work Medusa, WCW's women's wrestling would have been completely non-existent.
That's all. Those are the only two I think of. Like, if I can think of WCW's women's division, like in actual wrestling, it's these two only. Only. Like,
hey, to give Asia her flowers. Kidding.
When did Jazz come over to WCW?
Late.
Was that 98, 99, 2000?
I want to say 99, 2000. But okay. I mean, I look at like Asia and things like that, like later on. I mean, and they're still arm candy.
Woman and Sensational Sherry, two of the best in-ring working females in the early 90s, late 90s. Yeah. And they were both valets 92% of their career.
Never saw them wrestle.
Yeah. Like, and Sherry could. Like, they could have totally, like, done a program with Sherry and Medusa if they wanted to. But yeah, like, you just didn't get that in-ring product. They were the valets. They were the eye candy, the arm candy, the, woman was beside Flair, and everything. Like, it wasn't focused on. thankfully that's changed, and thankfully we're still trying to push for even more to this day. Which, I mean, we've seen a big turnaround in the last decade, but it can still turn around even more, and it needs to. This match was weird. This match ends kind of abruptly without us really knowing how it ends, and then all of a sudden you just literally see Medusa trying to swing a sledgehammer and not doing a lot of damage to the Honda motorcycle. I'm like, I think she breaks the headlight, but or like a side panel, but I'm like, you don't really see destruction. And I'm like, at least I will say this, at least she had the know-it-all to think, okay, I'm just gonna push it over. That'll at least do that. But like, I was just like, y'all should have y'all should have had a test Honda to like sledgehammer didn't do a thing.
Didn't do a test run.
Yeah.
Bull Nakano traveled from Japan for this?
Yeah.
He did her hair for this?
I need a instruction video of how she got her hair like that, because I know that what I used in high school, the get it glue,
got to be
glue. Wow, I'm dating myself. Was not a thing at this point.
That would like whatever we got, that spike stuff would not hold like whatever the hell was in Bull Nakano's hair.
Yeah, because it doesn't move throughout the entire match.
No, it stays like that. On a side note, she's just like Scott Norton with me, where I did not know until years later how huge they are in Japan. Like, she's a legend over there.
Oh yeah.
By the time I was like, who's this?
I mean, and it's cool, like doing the show and with this channel, like as we're revisiting, because I'm like, somebody like this would pop up that I haven't thought about in years, and I'm getting a chance to go back and researching and just looking back at stuff that I didn't know. Of course, we didn't have the early easy access back then to do it. Like again, we talk about it all the time. Tape trading. That's the only way you would have seen her anywhere else.
Yeah. Because right now I can go on YouTube right now and see like a banger she did in like 92 or 93.
Yeah. Kids, if you don't know who Bull Nakano is, go look her up. Next up, you can argue probably match of the night with that. Like I've got it on two different matches, but I'm probably going to lean more towards this one. You get a singles match of Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit. And Dean Malenko, just like you saw in the intro, comes out with Jimmy Hart, which is no memory of this whatsoever. They mentioned in commentary something along the lines of like Jimmy Hart promised a cruiserweight opportunity if he aligned with him, and I'm like, I don't remember the storyline at all. And then you get Benoit coming out, and he's part of the Horsemen. You've got Woman beside of him, and you've got Elizabeth and everything. And this match goes to a draw, as it should with these two. And you get 4 overtimes, 4 5-minute overtimes. So much to the fact that it's been several days since I watched it. I'm like, I don't even remember who won, but I just remember this match was awesome.
Yeah, there was a really awesome spot in that I just really wanted to point out, where they were about to do a backslide, and Dean Malenko maneuvers his body to turn into a sunset flip.
Yeah,
I thought that was most creative thing to happen in 1996.
This match might be my new, if someone's like, what match would you show somebody if they've never watched pro wrestling? It might be this now. And then Eddie Ray is a close second behind him. I know that's the top of your list right there, Will. But I don't know this match. I'm like, I don't remember this match, and I was watching it. I was like, damn.
This was a tale of this pay-per-view. It was a tale of two cruiserweight styles, because the Rey Mysterio Ultimo Dragon match was very AAA New Japan style light heavyweight cruiserweight style wrestling. You know what I mean? Lots of high spots, lots of flips, moonsaults, hurricane karanas. The Chris Benoit Eddie Guerrero match was very much the grappling, shoot, catch as catch can style cruiserweight match where these smaller dudes went in there and wrestled the shit out of each other without having to leave the ground. You know what I mean? They both got on the top rope and did their moves for effect, but it wasn't like the same kind of cruiserweights you would get with Ultimo Dragon and Ray. It was I loved watching good traditional wrestling. And you're right. This was match of the night, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to a match coming up that you could say is probably number 2. But BGM, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit here. I mean, it's what these two defined the next generation. This is what, to this day, this is what a lot of young wrestlers hope to kind of be, is that technique. I mean, a young Daniel Bryan, I'm sure, watched this and studied this.
Moves throughout this match I see people doing nowadays. And even like maybe a few years ago, that's definitely Daniel Bryan is all over that. Wheeler Yuta, all over that. Like all like the technical wrestlers that are out now are trying to redo this match. Every 5-star classic you're seeing right now is taking something from this match and all the cruiserweight matches from this era, especially Dean Malenko.
Yeah, I want to give Malenko his flowers. I mean, he gets brought up, but I mean, people talk about Benoit and Guerrero, and
Dean Malenko doesn't get enough credit.
He's so good, and I think it's because his whole thing, the Iceman, the Man of 1,000, he didn't have to do a lot of promos.
Yeah,
but the thing was, when he did promos, he was good at a promo, but he just didn't have to. And I think that just kind of made him kind of go at the wayside for people. And also, I mean, back in the day, I mean, at this time, yeah, people were loving the cruiserweights for like the Ultimo Dragon, Rey Mysterio's, Eddie Guerrero, that kind of stuff. This style was not necessarily a lot of what I don't think that they were. There's far more, I feel like, of appreciation for this style now than it was at this time in 1996.
They were getting their flowers back then.
Yeah, like
you go, ooh, yeah, but you weren't. They weren't loved.
Yeah. Like, I mean, people love the technical things like Bret Hart, Owen Hart on the other channel and everything. But like, it's a great match. But because even when they do one of the restarts, the crowd, at one point, it's just like, like it didn't sound like an excitement, but like watching it back now, you're like, it's amazing. Like,
I heard the crowd hated that match.
Yeah,
that was there, but they're not wrestling fans.
They're bikers.
Yeah,
so,
they're bikers, losers.
Best Gout Machine goes missing for a while.
Yeah, if you ride a motorcycle, you're a bitch. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you heard anything I've said anytime I've opened my mouth?
Absolutely not. Who are you?
So speaking of the crowd, the crowd was not very PC here going into this next match. And how WCW did not realize this was going to happen. And the Peacock is not really censored with it either. Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray come out with Sister Sherry and Colonel Robert Parker against the Steiner brothers. And this crowd is definitely not a fan of Harlem Heat, as good as they were. Awkward, y'all?
Awkward. Like my butthole did something there when like you mentioned that. I'm like, oh, I know what match we're talking about. Ooh.
Yeah. Like, Will, like how could they not see this coming?
This was very reminiscent of, and it's not the same person, but you'll understand where I'm going with this. They didn't need Sensational Sherry or Colonel Robert Parker. I love both those managers. They were both near the top of my list. You know who Harlem Heat needed at Hog Wild? They needed fucking New Jack.
Oh shit!
They needed Jim Cornette to look at New Jack and go, "Hey, go out there and piss all those white people off."
Like
that's what they needed. They needed somebody that could go out there and embrace the heat magnet.
Yeah. Yeah, I've listened to interviews with Booker T and Stevie Ray, and I think even like when Stevie Ray came on the Wolfpack with us, like I think this got brought up. It takes away from the match too, because I mean, you can see that they are just pissed at this crowd, as they should be, But I will say though, it was kind of cool because there's a moment where you're seeing young Scott Steiner and young Booker T. And, we've talked about the last Nitro. We talked about, how at Bash 2000 when we did the watch along, how after this with Booker T winning the title and Scott, like Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner becoming your headliners going to the very end. So to see here in 96 where they're still young, they're still definitely in the tag team, right? To see to know, okay, where they're going. That was
started
cool.
From the bottom, now we're here. Started at the bottom, now my whole crew's here. I don't know the song.
This is why I wanted you on the show. I love you, man.
Does your Pollo have a Pinta mask on?
Pollo el cero miedo.
I was about to say that.
I have a Jushin Thunder Liger mask too, but I don't know where it went.
Please go watch the Gout Foundation. They are hilarious.
Mm-hmm. The realest wrestling podcast on YouTube. Sorry.
It's okay. I was about to say, and good night, best Gout. I'm just kidding. But yeah, what did you guys think seeing these two tag teams that were, I mean, you think of tag teams in WCW. These were the two tag teams.
The top two in WCW.
You could put Nasty Boys maybe at number 3 for me because, I mean, they're a definite tag team, not just two people thrown together. But these are the tag teams of World Championship Wrestling.
Top two best workers. Like I said, they went on went on to become at least half of them went on to be main eventers. The other half became Marty Jannetty's.
There's always got to be one.
Hey.
Check that, Rick Steiner.
Well, I mean, his son is still doing.
Oh, I like his son though.
Is he still doing something? I haven't watched NXT in months.
I assume so. I don't watch NXT.
Last thing I heard, he finally didn't just have a goatee; he had an actual beard, and I'm like, he can grow that.
I watched
the puberty.
I watched the NWA on Tuesday. If that tells you where I rank NXT.
Yeah. Although I did see as we were getting ready to start that next week you're getting the NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton versus Becky Lynch. Becky's going back to NXT. So I'm like, I do like the crossover that they're doing, bringing that's what they should do. Then they should have been doing that during the black and gold time too. This is a tangent off of Hog Wild, but that's what I think they should have done. It should have always, even though you're developmental, cool, let's go see your top end developmental. Let's go see them if they can hang with some of your,
with the big boys.
Stars. Yeah.
Big
where the big boys play.
Big gingers. Yeah.
Next up is the match that I would say is probably was the one that I was saying could be match of the night. It was a close second, and that's you're getting the U.S. Championship versus Ric Flair versus a young Eddie Guerrero here. This is early on in our show here we covered the relationship between Eddie Guerrero and Chavo, and that's that Halloween Havoc 97 through 98. Eddie Guerrero with the long mullet and dragging the title and just being that heel that he was great at. This is not that Eddie Guerrero. This is still that flashy, yeah, come on, this is the place to be tonight, type of thing. And it's funny, I started rewatching Nitro from episode 1 just to do it because it's something.
Who hurt you?
It's just what?
Who hurt you?
Who hurt me? I know it gets better.
He heard him.
with where I am, because there's some weird stuff going on. I think I'm on like episode 7 or 8, and there's some there. I did it because I want to do it too because we've got Queen's Court, watching Raw from start to finish, and we've got Monday Night Madness with our buddies from On a Forklift doing theirs, and I'm like, I don't remember a lot of early WCW Nitro. I remember from like NWO on, like through the end, but like that. So I was like, let me just start and rewatch this and everything. And yeah, Eddie Guerrero, I will say this, is featured a ton at this point. From the start of Nitro on, and it's the Eddie Guerrero. I reference it again. It's the Eddie Guerrero you get in WCW versus NWO World Tour. It's the singlet, either the red and white or the black and red singlet with the matching kind of like bomber jacket coming out to the ring. Just happy to be there, babyface. But you put Eddie Guerrero in the ring with Ric Flair. I mean, it writes itself even then. BGM, what you got for this match?
All right. Admittingly, I honestly have not seen this match since 30 years ago when it aired.
Yeah.
So my memory is a little bit fuzzy from this, possibly from the drugs I took into college. But like they're both legends. Eddie Guerrero during WCW during the mid '90s was like, to me, I peak Eddie Guerrero.
Oh,
that's my favorite era right there. I forget. No, don't forget. But I love his WWE run, Mamacita, and all that. But this is like, my type of shit. And him against a legend like Ric Flair. Can we like Ric Flair again? I don't know. But like that's magic right there.
Well,
master storytellers.
Oh yeah, and together.
This is right after he got here from ECW. Like, he just dropped the Y and added the IE. Like, he was baby Eddie.
Yeah. Well, he'd been there about a year. Because he was on like Nitro and we lost Best Scout.
There he is.
And he's back. I didn't kick him off, I promise.
But still, like, when you think about where he was at, and then you think about a year later in October of '97 and the leaps and bounds the man had made in the short 18 months to 2 years he had in the company. It's hard pressed to find somebody who became that good that fast.
Yeah.
I just realized I did not do drugs in college.
Oh, I just wouldn't blame them. I've done plenty of drugs. I just choose not to blame them.
As I drink my sweet tea, I'll just.
You're the innocent one between the two of us. We've established that.
I'm really not. I just choose my vices in liquid form.
I've committed lots of crimes lately. That's it.
Again, Best Scout goes missing for a couple months at this point.
It involves the mafia, the cartel, the Suzuki. No, wait. Well, the Japanese one. I've been with them too.
Yeah. It's weird with Flair in the U.S. title. Anytime I see it, and I know he did it a couple of times. But it's weird, but I like it at the same time because I mean he's working with these like Eddie Guerreros and Dean Malenko's and like I mean yes, even there's some Sting matches with the U.S. title and everything, but it's
he's above that. Dr. Pepper, people.
Oh, that's my favorite. I love
strawberries and
cream.
I just pounded a 12-pack of those over the last few days.
Yeah. I had a couple.
I do it every time.
It's so
the diabetes will be worth it.
Amen.
But Ric Flair is above doing the United States Championship when you think about it. That is a little awkward. You're supposed to be chasing the big gold. You're supposed to be chasing the World Championship. You're past that by decades.
Not with Hogan being there, unfortunately. And I've always wondered this. Did Ric Flair know it? That would be my question if I ever got a chance to interview Flair. Did you know once Hogan arrived that you would now be second fiddle in this company.
And
You
they
could almost
fucked
say-
Ric Flair over so bad when Hogan came in.
Yeah, you could almost argue that he's third fiddle because I'm sorry, Sting is top babyface. Like, I mean, second babyface behind Hogan when Hogan comes in. But did you know that you were going to be bumped? Like, okay, Hogan's coming in. I am no longer my position anymore. Like, it is going to be a completely different world.
I think he realized it after he lost to Macho Man and Hulk Hogan like 3 times each in a row.
Yeah. Well, next up, we have the semi-main event, and we get kind of a rematch from Bash 96. We get the team of Sting and Lex Luger versus the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. And we've talked a lot about the Outsiders here. Good match, not great match. I mean, I still stand by at this point. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash are trying to figure out how to work in this tiny ring compared to what they were in,
They're too big for that WCW ring.
Kevin Nash takes 2 steps. He's on the other side. I mean, it's it's true. You step into the ring, he takes 1 step, he's there. He's on the other side. But I mean, I think if you're bringing in these Outsiders and they're to make them a tag team, the only solution is to put them with Sting and Lex here. I mean, there's no one else to really put them against. It's Sting and Lex. I mean, they were single stars, but I mean, they were a tag team themselves too. I mean, freaking Funko made them in a 2-pack because they were synonymous with each other.
Get that packer somewhere.
Jealous. I never got that one. I saw it signed at the gathering when I was there here in Charlotte, and I was tempted. I was so tempted. Will, for you, is there anybody else that the Outsiders could have been put up against at this point?
Looking back on it and rewatching the pay-per-view recently, my biggest takeaway was the tag titles were defended on this pay-per-view, and there was still a tag team match higher on the card than that.
Yeah.
So that tells you everything you needed to know about how highly they thought of these teams together. And looking at what the Outsiders did with the tag titles over the next 18 months to 2 years, with how many times they held it and the stories they carried with those belts. Then you look at the fact that we just left Bash 30 days ago with the leg drop that changed the wrestling world. This was the biggest story in the company at this point, short of Hogan's main event match coming up.
Yeah. BGM, Lex Luger and Sting versus the Outsiders. All Hall of Famers. I mean, every single
All
one
Hall
of
of
them.
Famers, though. I know, I remember this match, not really being, wowing me too much. I got to realize, Nash and Hall, they were freshly a tag team together at this point. They had been single stars forever. They'd done tag team stuff before, but they weren't tag team wrestlers.
Yeah.
There's no Marty Jannetty in that group.
No, they definitely. I mean, you saw it at Bash 96. You're seeing it here. They lean into that. It's funny, as much as you watch interviews with Nash and Hall about when they did the black and white vignettes, and Hogan still trying to be the "what you gonna do, brother," da da da, and they're just whatever. That's we're trying to be real. You're doing wrestling. They're doing heel wrestling stuff as a tag team. They're doing the abdominal stretch, and when the ref isn't looking, let me grab the arm for the leverage and everything. It's as much as they're trying to be real, they're still leaning into that. Okay, this is what heels do in tag team wrestling. But yeah, I mean, it was a good semi-main event. I mean, because the NWO is your hottest storyline right now, so why not have them as your semi-main? The only thing else you could have done is do them as your opener, but you're not going to take away your cruiserweights. That's just not what WCW did. But then we get to the main event. The Giant, a.k.a. The Big Show, a.k.a. No More BS Paul White. Young still here. This is 96, so just a little over a year in the company because he debuted in 95 and got the belts, he's green. He's still green and everything, but still super athletic for a big man. And you get him up against the new World Order Hogan, which is it's still weird. Like watching this here, like it's almost Hogan still trying to figure out how do I be a heel, right?
How do I
and
be an asshole?
Like I wondered if Will would catch that, would say the same thing. Like he comes out and it's like he knows he's got to be a heel, but it's like I have done the same thing for how many years now?
You would think after Terry had been such a terrible person for so long that being an asshole at this point would just come natural to him.
Well, yeah, yeah.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was already going to say something like that.
It's awkward to watch him. I mean, yeah, he eventually gets there later on, but I mean, it's him fighting his urges and his muscle memory to do everything. He fights the urge, and he fights the urge to the ear and everything. And of course, it comes down to a screwy finish. I always laugh. I will laugh until I die at this, where the Giant gets hit with the belt, because like he takes the biggest bump for getting hit by this belt. It's like literally like a 747 knocks him like off his feet. He flies through the air when that belt hits him.
5 backflips.
Yeah, it's so awkward. And we get Hogan winning, and of course the commentators are painting the scene for us as they should. Like, what does he do? Is this the NWO World Title? No, it's still the WCW World Championship. Blah blah blah. But then, just like Jay put in the intro, the Booty Man comes down, aka, what was his name?
Disciple.
Disciple. What was he? Zodiac in the Dungeon of Doom, and let's see, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And if you want more, go watch Jay's episode on the Booty Man here on World Championship Wreckage's YouTube channel.
My homeboy.
Shout out to Jay Knows Wrestling. We love Jay.
I love you, Jay, wherever you are.
We all send virtual hugs to Jay.
I miss your smell.
I haven't seen Jay in so long. I miss you, Jay.
Memory.
It's so hard to say goodbye.
I'm going to clip this, and he's going to be like, I hate y'all. He hates compliments so much.
I rub my beard against his face.
I'll rub my beard against whatever he wants as long as he comes back to work.
Dude, our dude is working, dude. He's working like 18-hour shifts at his job.
I know. But I mean, back here with us at pretend work, not real work.
But the Booty Man, which the funny thing is the commentators are acting like they don't know who it is. And then finally they're like, that's the Booty Man.
Booty Man.
Brings out a cake because it's Hulk Hogan's birthday. Because why not? And we get an NWO, the same shirt that Hogan comes out in. Before we jump there, we talk about the forgetting, like he's fighting the urges. The most clear as day one is getting into the ring, and he starts going like stretching it, breaking his shirt. And he's like, I'm a heel. I'm not supposed to do this anymore. But he just keeps going with it. It's so funny to watch. But yeah, the Booty Man is like, you're my best friend. Like, you've been with me for years. I have to celebrate you being the world champion again and bringing you, and it's your birthday. And we get a Hogan. Hogan helped make the NWO what it is and everything, but he still was doing the wrestling thing, and it's a promo that sounds like wrestling, doesn't sound real, and it's just literally like, if I'm gonna, like, he takes out the Disciple. He's like, if I was gonna do this to my best friend Ric Flair, what am I gonna do to you? Like, all that kind of stuff. But the biggest moment of the night, it's on every NWO DVD that you watch, or special or documentary. It's on the Best of Nitros or Best of WCW, like any special they do. It is taking for the first time taking a spray can of spray paint and spraying the NWO letters on big gold. Do you guys remember what you thought when this happened as a kid? Because this is, again, I said at the beginning,
I've been waiting for this.
This is them saying to hell with tradition.
Well, for me, I as a young kid at 13, I had not I wasn't like going, oh yeah, NWO is cool. No, I was WCW, for all the way. So when this happened, my heart was First off, it was already shattered to a million pieces when Hogan did the leg drop. But then he did this, and like I'm even more like he has the championship belt. He defiled it. I'm like, no. Like I'm pretty sure I cried a little bit, but I was sitting there like, no, what the hell, Hulk Hogan, you bastard. I think I marched to my room because we watched everything in the living room. So I'm sure I just marched my way into my room, just sulking like, ew, ew, ew. And then I watched some scrambled porn, and I was calmed down a little bit.
That's
Will's Friday night.
you're killing the business. You're
Yeah.
killing the business. That's how I reacted in 1996. 11-year-old Will was mad.
I just remember being like, I think my reaction was, can they do that? Like can they do that? Like I was.
Can they afford another belt?
Those things are expensive.
Not back in the day. Go watch again. I'm plugging all the shows on the channel tonight. Go watch Back in the Day with our buddy XLJ because he'll do his magazines, and on several of them you'll see like the merchandise, and there's like replica belts back then, and it came with whatever nameplate you wanted. If you wanted Kevin Nash or Goldberg or Sting or Hogan or Flair, and they
Ice Train.
they were
Ice Train.
They were not that much like. But yeah, I just remember being like, can they do this? Like legally, can they do this? I love the let's see, 96. How old was I? 11. I was 11, being like, are we sure they can do this? Like,
I wouldn't bully both of you.
you're only 2 years older.
I know.
Yeah, you're only 2 years older. I don't know, but I mean, I had the same kind of reaction even earlier than that when Flair jumped to WWF with them. I'm like, can he do that? Like, these are two different places. I know that. I at least know that at that age, which at that age I was, let's see, that's 92. So I was 7. I at least knew that then, but
I was blown away to see Ric Flair in WWF programming, even at 7 years old, because I had grown up watching him.
Yeah.
So to see him go to the other guys, that was the first time I remember him showing up on the other channel, because up until this point, you know, it was still real to me, damn it. And there were 2 different wrestling stations. You watch Ric Flair and these guys here, and you watch, you know, everybody else
over here.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Hog Wild 96. The first time they visit Sturgis, South Dakota. And they do it again 2 years, like running. I think 3 more. Did they do it in 99? I need to go back and look.
No, I don't think so. Maybe
97.
97 is where Luger had the belt.
98 is they switched to Road Wild in 98.
Oh, it was Hog Wild for 97 too? Okay.
Road Wild in 97. So Hog Wild
so it's only here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it switched to Road Wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
But 98's the last one. There's not 99.
No, Sturgis, they added 1,500 people.
Yeah.
99, Road Wild 99, and it was the final one.
Okay, so there's the 99. I don't know if I remember 1999 there, so I might have to go back and rewatch that at some point.
Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, Eddie Guerrero, and Vampiro and ICP in the opening match.
Oh my God! 5 stars. 5 stars.
You're gonna make us watch that one day. I know it. I just remember 98 because you had the NWO Battle Royal with Wolfpack versus Hollywood, and Goldberg was in it. Like, and he's your world champion, and he's in a battle royal against the NWO. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Hog Wild 96. Please, if you have not already, please like and subscribe our channel here, World Championship Wreckage. We have lots of content. We've been a little tired over the last couple of weeks, so not as much stuff going out, but it's been, you know, kids are getting back into school and work and end of summer and travel and tiredness and all those things. But please do not only just like and subscribe here, but please do it on Rivet City Radio, not only on their YouTube, but also on their Twitch, as well as the Gout Foundation. But I'm going to turn it over first to BGM and plug everything you got going on, dude.
All right. Follow Best Gout Machine, me, for the most ridiculous wrestling content you've ever seen in your life on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on YouTube. I'm literally just search me. I'm everywhere, and I'm here just spewing content all over your lower leg. What?
Will's face.
My what? You're gonna spew where? Sir, this is the Wendy's.
That's the thing, Cold TV. Man, the last thing I did with Cold TV was like the most X-rated thing I've ever taken part of. We said some of the worst stuff ever on Friday night movie night for Hell Comes to Frogtown. Chef's kiss. We were disgusting that night.
BGM, I co-host a podcast that's on Pornhub, dude, and you just made me make that face.
I'm proud of myself.
As you should be. As you should be. Well, what's going on with Rivet City Radio and Box Spots and Chair Shots? You got everything going on.
Well, it's funny that you ask. I just had an interview tonight with New York Times bestselling author D.R. Filer. He did a story called Gorp the Grappler. It's a story about an alien that comes to America in the 1970s, and he thinks Florida Championship Wrestling is how people decide who the biggest, baddest person in the world is. And he goes back to the aliens and explains to them that he watched the World Championship battle, and he thinks that they can just come to this place and just take them out, because he was like, they solve everything with hand-to-hand combat here. So this alien civilization comes to the world expecting pro wrestling to be how we decide all of our battles and stuff. So this alien organization, that's this crazy sci-fi pro wrestling story I never thought I needed in my life, but I do. And yeah. So
BGM,
keep talking.
So it's Gorp the Grappler. It's ridiculous. He sent me a message. It's in the best way possible, but he's like, yeah, aliens invade the planet in 1970s and think pro wrestling is how we handle our business.
As it should be. As it should.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a super cool story. He's got a great thing. He's former PWI editor. He's written for New York Times, New York Post, all the big wigs. Super great guy. So I'm dropping that tomorrow. We've got tons of content rolling 7 days a week. Just check my link tree at The Will Gray. You'll find everything for Botch Spots, for Rivet City Radio, for WCW, and for Creation World.
Wonderful. As always.
We went from a New York Times bestseller to being on a podcast with me. I'm sorry.
This has been the best part. I'm so glad we finally got to do a show together, BG.
Right. Available.
You will be back for more. I'm gonna Oh yeah, I did. I know it was just conflict. We surely should have had you on for the disco. Episode.
You were, but I was already going to be on something else that night. Like I was in high demand that week.
Yeah. We will get you on for another one.
Bring it on.
The Alex Wright, or the 7 episode.
Yeah.
Oh yes. 7 or Alex Wright. I am down. Yes.
Please follow World Championship Wreckage. We are on TikTok, Twitter, Threads, or X, or whatever Twitter is called now. Everything. Please look us up. We try to be as entertaining as we can. These two are a lot more entertaining than I am. I try to be the organized straight man here, but then Will is much more organized than I am. But Will, we got to pick some new topics, and I want to throw a curveball at you. I have an idea. We're in the month of September now. What if for the month of September, each poll, we throw out different war games, different fall brawls to do. And I think we can do the same thing in October as well and compete against different Halloween Havocs.
I'm down with that. I'm unmuted.
Okay. So what fall brawl / war games do you want to compete for next week's poll? He's looking through his notes. Like, let me remind him who's on what card.
He has notes?
He has notebooks upon note. He's the Harriet the Spy. He's the Harriet the Spy of the wrestling world.
I'm looking. I want to do. It's it'll be Fall Brawl 5. It's 97.
That's the NWO one versus the Horsemen. Okay.
Yeah, Fall Brawl 97. I'm looking for the date. That was World War III, 11/23/97. Yeah. Wasn't it Fall Brawl World War III the same year or the same show that year?
No.
No.
They were on the same year.
Fall Brawl 5,
August.
9/14/97.
Yeah,
Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I got it.
Yeah, it's Salem, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I want to throw out, I think I've done it before on the poll, but it didn't win. I want to throw out the year later. I want to throw out Fall Brawl War Games 1998, where the teams were WCW, NWO Hollywood, NWO Wolfpack, and you got the return of the Warrior. Return. Because I'm sure when we get into October, I will throw out Fall Brawl 98. But yes, okay, we got 97 versus 98. We will throw that out there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop off here. I'm going to close it with wise words from our friend, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, because we're going to close out this, and then Will and I are going to record another episode with another guest that I'm really excited about, so because I don't have to lead it. But for Best Gout Machine and the Gout Foundation, for the Will Gray and Rivet City Radio and Bite Spice and Share Shots, I am your friendly neighborhood DadHat wearing wrestling fan with wise words from Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, baby, I got one more thing to say. Your gas tank is full. Your dipstick is in. Your windows washed. Y'all come back and see me again.